Hi, I'm Thomas Haskins, and this is the Utilisation of Proprietary Project Methodologies, specifically Prince2 in practice. In the UK, Prince2 has some prevalence and support from the professional body, the APM. Anecdotally, Prince2 received much criticism, and during my time studying my MSc in Project Management, within practitioners it appeared difficult to find support for what is a prominent PM tool, at least in the UK. It remains a key qualification for the profession, and it's really important. Many adverts for project-related jobs make a reference to it, and it features prominently in a positive light in professional literature, so why the incongruence? These diagrams are plucked from the web, and they perhaps convey the complicated representation of the Prince2 methodology. Project management methodology arguably seeks to develop project administration into a quality assurance process that will support the management of a project. It belongs in the control paradigm of PM. The control paradigm sees the role of a project team to deliver the product, and to do this by keeping it within the assigned cost and time budgets. We could easily arrive at the theory for methodologies in PM and the reasoning behind this in literature. Any concerns we might have about the application of Prince2 project management methodology could be tested by testing a suitable hypothesis. This then pointed us in the direction of a quantitative deductive study, and so we are using a quantitative closed question survey to test the alternative hypothesis. Prince2 supports the development and delivery of projects for practitioners. Filter questions to ascertain the simple characteristics at the start of the survey would be important. We are seeking high volume too, as we would like to achieve statistical significance. We have conducted a pilot study, and the findings are presented in this paper. The population of project workers who have this Prince2 qualification is high in the UK, and we needed to be cognizant of the two levels of qualification and whether the respondents had sufficient experience to relate the method to project practice. For the pilot, it seemed important to us to be able to test whether the obvious key bits of functionality in Prince2 were being exploited. Perhaps the method was ill thought of, but aspects of it were thought to be important and so valued. Half of the respondents held P2 qualifications, or half had heard of P2, providing a complete sample of people who were aware of Prince2, further demonstrating its prominence and penetration. The pilot sample included a range of experiences, with a predominance of experienced people with 15 plus years of experience. The most critical commentary for P2 came from this group. Respondents included a large proportion of variously qualified Prince2 people and experienced project managers. Most respondents worked at organisations that did not use Prince2, but there was a spread of people who worked at organisations that claimed to use Prince2 but did not do that in the view of the respondent. Others worked at organisations that used some small aspects of the method. No one worked at an organisation that used Prince2 in its entirety, or a version close to it. 20% of the pilot sample thought Prince2 was particularly useful, and this was contrasted with the remaining 80% of respondents who thought it to be a little or somewhat useful, or else distracting from the better management of projects, and the 2% was split between these two positions. We also asked for comments, and it was useful that we did, because no common impression came out of the functionality closed questions. This seemed to indicate that the functionality utility of Prince2 is not understood, even amongst qualified people. Though governance, which we thought was key, is picked out, however the organisation does not really need Prince2 to achieve this. The comments about Prince2 usefulness are quite damning, and the idea of Prince2 being too bureaucratically cumbersome is a concession that even literature makes of Prince2. Respondents were also asked about whether they thought Prince2 was easy to understand and easy to apply. They largely answered with neutral, with a slight tendency towards it not being. This is interesting because it suggests that the sample did not understand Prince2 enough to comment or to have a firm opinion. An opportunity was provided to allow summary qualitative responses and generated the following. For example, the profession really needs to rethink the negative effects of a recipe approach that is so generalized it is supposed to apply in every situation. It has mutated from industry, standard to irrelevance, bloated and overcomplicated. It is an old IT-based system to control many people working on one project. The principle of Prince2 is to make sure the whole process is documented. However, in the real work, it is often asking for minute detail that more often than not is required. Eventually, this leads to PINO, prints in name only. Still in the process of refinement and data collection, the early responses for this survey are able to contradict the promoter's claims for this Prince2 methodology. It did enjoy popularity, appreciation, or notable utility amongst the respondents, accepting outlier converts. It did attract criticism, suggesting that its flaws, bureaucracy, complexity, difficulties in adoption and implementation, overcame any utilities, which appeared to be weak, and only where it reflected good practice, providing a governance oversight, stage or phasing of work packages, prompts to undertake risk management and develop a business case. These aspects are regular inclusions in good practice project management and would not require Prince2 to be adopted. Moreover, it seems to be the case that the criticality of these functions are not given any emphasis over the prioritisation of the Prince2 process in the training arrangements and its focus on passing an exam. Prince2's main advantage might be to introduce the uninitiated to project management, though this might be negated by stronger comments that suggest it distracted from the reality of the management of projects. Among the respondents was a minority of outlier acolytes that did report utility in Prince2 and were in polarised positions from the majority. These views may represent trainers or invested conformity to belief positions. Future research needs to attempt to understand these outliers. The pilot responses from this survey gave an indication that Prince2 occupies an unjustified prominence in the project management profession. Given the dominance of Prince2 methodology in PM professional literature, our challenging null hypothesis effectively represents a conspiracy theory that the commercial interests of Prince2 are gaslighting the industry, so further stepped inquiry seems appropriate. Further research is proposed and will seek to achieve statistical significance, and some alterations may be included to address new questions the pilot raises. Hampering the survey might be the fact that such proprietary project methodologies tie the PM to a deterministic approach, much criticised and identified as needing to be rethought by the rethinking project management agenda. Considering of this skewing factor will be made in the full dissertation thesis. It may be that ultimately the need to sell the method to include a national test serves to compromise its utility. This confounding commercial interest might be removed through the provision of a freely available project methodology and offers a way to design tests to the hypothesis presented here. Thank you, and do you have any questions?